Martin, episode 91 of Illuminating Rounds. How are we doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, just got back from Cornwall and a week down there.
You had a multi-generational holiday.
Yes,
probably felt like that too.
So I took my kids, of course, as I normally would. But my father was recently bereaved, as some of the listeners will know. So he came with us. Luckily, there were 4 rooms, so we could all have a room each. And he drove us mad. Yeah.
Shout out to you, Dad.
No, it was very good. It's very good to be all away like that. Yeah. I did think we would split up and do slightly different things. 85. The kids want to do surfing and off-road cycling and 6-hour kayaking session.
I heard he was at sea. I heard he was a very good kayaker as well.
Grief, he was awful. But basically, he just moaned the whole time and just kept putting his oar down and refused. It was a double kayak. The kids had a kayak each. I was in a kayak with my dad. Neither of us are small. And basically, I was doing all the work, fighting the currents. So we got one bit with the waves were washing right over us. I was thinking, this is difficult. This is really difficult. But 6 hours later, we got back sort of shaking. I felt like the 85-year-old. He was all right.
It puts a whole new perspective on the book Old Man and the Sea when you're the one doing all the, you're hauling in the load of the big fish catch.
I couldn't believe I gave him so many opportunities to back out of it. He didn't need to come. He could have gone to the bar. He could have gone for a little walk, could have hung around. And, we had a hot tub and stuff like that. There was plenty for him to be doing, but no, he came with us. It was good. It was good.
Nice, very nice, very nice. So I got a game in with Stuart Brand, who we'll talk about, but poor Stuart lost a lot of his ASL stuff in a fire. He lived in a flat, and the flat above him caught fire, and obviously there's a lot of water that gets used in putting a fire out, and that has all come down. And he showed me a picture of his stuff, and he's got a very nice cabinet with all his ASL stuff, all kind of as we do, laid out perfectly in nice things. And on first glance, I wasn't sure if it was the before or after picture, because it looks really quite nice. And then you look closely, and the journals and the annuals are all just completely warped, and it feels so terrible. So I want to shout out to the games company who go on.
Little Big Wars.
And they are in
Little Big Wars. I can't remember where they are. They're in the US.
They're in North Dakota is where they are.
That's right.
And they offered to sell Stuart stuff at cost to try and help him get his stuff back. He might need a small mortgage to pay for the shipping for it to all come over.
Yeah, it didn't work out in that sense, but
big shout out.
It was a very kind offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we had a quick look at their Facebook page. It looks like they've got a really nice war games shop there. So, big shout out to those guys for offering to help. If anybody knows of people who have spare collections, which sounds crazy, or someone who is selling a whole collection, I don't know, maybe we'll figure out a way of trying to help Stuart get his stuff back. Pretty brutal when that happens.
Yeah, I've known it happened to people before. I remember early on in my career, I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was going to the London sort of monthly. Do you remember there was a London? Yeah. There may still be a London monthly event. And I met him on the train on the way down. We kind of met up with him, and he'd had exactly the same thing, but his place burnt down completely. All his stuff was completely gone, and he'd been able to gradually replace it. And then he moved to the US. He probably might be listening to this. It's you. His name might have been Ray. Okay. I don't know where that comes from. So it's not the first time, but terrible. I mean, it's very difficult to rebuild, isn't it? It's expensive, time consuming. Not everything's in print.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking in a way, because we know how much effort we put into packing it away and storing stuff and clipping counters and organising and getting everything kind of just the way you like it. And in a way, there's a little bit of freedom in terms of I can start again. That's quite nice. And I was saying to Stuart, in a way, replacing counters with newer versions of the counters if you can find them, new version of Yanks, new version of Beyond Valor, isn't a terrible thing. Those counters are looking a little bit old now. The new MMP counters look much better than the old Avalon Hill ones. So
absolutely.
notwithstanding the fact that it's a terrible thing to happen, there is a slight silver lining in that you can kind of refresh all your stuff. But of course, there's some stuff that's ridiculously difficult to find, and I don't know whether Stuart had Tarawa and Bridge Too Far or whatever it might have been that's hard to find.
Yeah,
I don't even know if Doom Battalions these days is easy to get hold of, or whatever it might be that Pegasus Bridge. So it's a real tough thing. It did remind me to check my insurance forms to make sure I was all covered.
Do you know, I bought Pegasus Bridge for $6.
Yeah.
From you found it. You found we were playing on Vassal. This is years and years ago, and you found it, and you just sent me the link, and I bought it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you'd pay for it now, but you wouldn't get it for $6, would you?
I paid £15 for it, and I paid £15 for that and one other one as well. I seem to remember at the same time. It's crazy.
And it's a huge amount of gaming, isn't it? Something like that for
you could
a few quid.
You could dedicate. I mean, this is a good conversation point. If we said, for example, and we won't because obviously it wouldn't make great content, but for the next year we could just play one hassle. We could go through every scenario card in the pack once each side, and then we could play the campaign game through, or maybe the 2 or 3 campaign games depending on what it is. That would take you a year, easily take you a year.
Yeah.
And it also leads into something we want to talk about as well today in terms of the scenarios of hassles. Just to finish up with Stuart. So Stuart came around. We played Art Nouveau from Doom Battalions. And this is also something I touched on before. So Stuart said he wanted to play early war, and I said, okay, fine, I'll dig something up, I'll find it. And obviously I've got most of the ASL stuff, so there's some bits and pieces I haven't got, but most stuff I've got. I would say I've got a fairly complete collection. So I put on the archive I wanted to play something before, I think I said something like March 1940, maybe May 1940, something like that. And I wanted about between 1 and 4 tanks on each side, and a certain size. And you'd think that you would get 100 scenarios come up, something like that. And you get 6. And one of those was duplicated because it'd been reprinted. And so it's really quite interesting that I think this is where we go back to why we need so many scenarios and why it's such a good thing we have so many scenarios. Because when you have very narrow criteria of what you're looking for, I want to play with this tank, or I want to play with this gun, or in this particular, theatre, or this particular location, this particular time of the war, we narrow down so quickly that there's actually so few scenarios. But I'm starting to think we haven't got enough.
Clearly haven't.
we played Art Nouveau. For those that haven't played it, it's kind of a bit of a classic now in Doom Battalions, I think. It's the one with the motorcycle Germans flying in, and it's quite an interesting scenario because it's got quite a lot of. I've played it before, like 15. I played it with Bernie Fox, my old nemesis, superb player, Bernie. But basically, you've got the Belgians are in control of a roadblock, and the Germans have to get past a roadblock and get some points off. And so there's the point of the fact that you have to clear a roadblock, which is fairly unique in terms of victory conditions for a scenario. You have to clear a roadblock, which is part of the victory condition. You can't just go around it and bypass it, whatever. You have to do some exit points. All the Belgians start off hip. You have some of the old FT-15 tanks, which are just probably the worst FVs available. I mean, they're just awful. But they're up against 3 slightly better German tanks. The Germans come on with motorcycles, which is again, fairly unique. And then the last thing, which again is unique about this scenario, is you have a deck of cards, like 5 blacks and 5 reds, and you pull 3 cards from them, and for every black you get an extra unit from a false pool that you can choose, and every red you lose one of your original units, but it's a counter. So I drew 2 blacks and 1 red, threw away the mortar, picked up 2 new tanks, two more tanks. But the victory conditions change slightly as well. It gets a little bit harder for every extra counter you get, a little bit easier for every one you lose. So it makes for a nice replayable scenario. It's a little bit pro-Belgian, and I'm probably a slightly better player than Stuart. So, but he was coming to me, so I'd set up as the Belgian. So, to be fair, I didn't even think about giving him the balance, and I probably should have done. And he dismounted a little bit too quickly on the. I think you know, like how some people get stung on their last game because they were too aggressive, so then they swing back the other way, and so his first turn he kind of dismounted and kind of was very, very cautious, didn't lose anything, but I didn't do anything on my first turn. Second turn he kind of creeps in, I barely do anything. Third turn I start to reveal some stuff, and suddenly now he's under pressure from time, and you know you've got that issue. But a nice little scenario, Art Nouveau, and one that I think would be interesting for us to have a look at if we ever get around to playing something like that again.
Yeah.
So that was that. And you've been on holiday, so that's what you've been up to.
Yeah. Well, I've also been playing Alex, my friendly Welsh pastor.
Yes.
And Alex is quite new to the hobby, but he's we're working through the Arnhem scenarios from so it's his annual 91.
Okay.
So a lot of people listening to this will know these, but they start with you basically play 6 in sequence, and there's rules for how you can win the campaign game. The first one is On with the Wind. The first, so they're all around the Arnhem sort of campaign. They're all small scenarios. The first 3 are Americans v Germans, and I think the last 3 are British v Germans. And I think it's a really nice little, somebody who knows the rules or has got reasonable grounding on the basics, but they're still very new in the hobby. I think they're quite good scenarios to take you through. The first one's On with the Wind, which I'm sure we've played.
Yep.
You've got the difficulty of approaching 88mm guns with infantry.
Yep.
To try and kind of like get your head round how you might be able to do that. For example, Tetow's attack, crossing quite a lot of ground. The defenders, actually, that's the British, isn't it? Tetow's attack, the British defending with a very small force, but a very good quality force. It's a really interesting. I think it's a good thing for somebody early on in the hobby. So if there's anyone watching, consider getting hold of Annual 91 and playing the 6. We haven't bothered really much with the campaign game rules. It's simply, if you sort of like win a turn early, you get like victory points towards the campaign, and if you take an extra turn, so you can play on past the normal end, then you kind of like, your opponent gets one. I've enjoyed it. I've done it before. I've played it before with Nick Ranson. It's a good sequence.
How long are you a new player for ASL? Because Alex has been around for a couple of years.
I suppose so. Yeah. Do you know what, Henry? I met him 2 years ago in November, so it's not quite 2 years, but he can only play once a month. So he's too busy. So yeah, he definitely still feels a bit like a new player, though he's beaten me, a couple of times, I think. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Do you think it's like the number of games you play? I
still feel like a new player sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not to do with whether you're good or not at it, is it? You could be an experienced player and not particularly successful on the win-loss record. I think it's the kind of confidence with the rules, and at least like knowing where that you'll be able to find the rule out. You can't always play yourself, can you? But reasonable confidence that you could sit down with someone and play a game through. Yeah. I guess so.
Interesting. We have to shout out to some new patrons. So David Nord and Jack Duffy, many thanks for your support. Thank you everybody for continuing your support and your pledges. We appreciate that. That goes towards obviously the scenario archive. You guys have access to the better graphics and bits and pieces. It goes towards hosting and stuff like that. So we thank you very much for your support. Obviously, you get. Someone spoke to me. I think it was Jack. Was kind of interested in the tabletop talks scenarios that you've pretty much put together. I think we both did a couple, I think. And you did a series of scenarios, replays in terms of, you played yourself on those.
Yeah.
You even won some, didn't you? I think.
Usually it was a draw, yeah.
But
I even managed to lose, yeah.
You can find all of those scenarios on the Patreon website through our bits and pieces. If you'd like to download those and either play them with someone else after watching your tabletop talks, Good resource for new players, and yeah, I think people like that. So that's what we did. So moving on to the scenario we played. Go on.
Well, do you want to mention the tournament quickly?
Oh, okay.
Just, I know there'll be people waiting. So yeah, we've got most of the games in from the Illuminating Rounds tournament, and but there is one to play. I think we got somebody moving continents, and they've been quite busy. So
yeah.
So with a little bit of luck, we'll have that soon, and we'll be able to show how people got. It's a semi-final. Got some top quality players.
And me.
And indeed your game, yeah.
I think isn't it quarterfinals? Is it quarterfinal?
There are 2 games going on, so there's 4 people still in.
Oh, because I was in the losers bracket.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because we got a whole range of games, and all those are in as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, including the Tuomos and there's all sorts of people who are unusually in the losers bracket at the moment.
Yeah. Tough sections. Right. Okay then. So this week, we're going to after we do this, we got a Toby's tips as well about how to deal with broken units. So we're going to play that after this.
When you're an attacker, I think specifically, isn't it?
That's right. And you had an interesting one in this scenario coming up, although you were defending. So what did we play? Where did we play it from? And what's the scenario, Martin?
We played Chateau de Miz, which is one of the scenarios from Dinant.
Yes. Now, this goes back to this idea that we don't play. I don't think. Well, you and I certainly don't play enough scenarios from the hassles. We kind of dip in maybe and we have a look at the campaign game, but often I feel like we pass aside a little bit too quickly the scenarios from the hassles, because the meat and potatoes always seems to be the campaign game, and that's the thing that everyone wants to jump into.
Yeah.
This was really nice because I said before, it was nice that we've played a little bit of the campaign. We haven't played enough of the campaign. You think you're losing, I think I'm losing. Dinant. I can't convince you to carry on for a little while. I'm sure I'll talk you into a day 3 at some point.
Maybe. No, I'm not completely against the idea at all. It's just big, isn't it? It's very time consuming. We're trying to fit other things in and stuff like that. But
that's true. Yeah, and the counter density was getting quite intense, wasn't it, for you at the and that was.
I think once I built a bridge in Leeds, because all that traffic jam will just flow across. Yeah.
That's right.
And you can blow them up in the towns as they drive up through the narrow streets. Yeah.
Exactly. So we get to see Rommel again in this one, and this is effectively the Germans trying to get up the cliff. Is it called escarpment? I don't know what you would call it, but this kind of big cliff that the French are holding on to, and it features the Belgian cavalry coming flying on as well. It's kind of this half-hearted, but I'm sure very important section of Belgian cavalry troops that are being called in. So this scenario, what's it about? We've got these 4 buildings to capture.
Yeah.
We've got a roadblock to clear, which we know has to be in a certain place.
Yes, so it has to be in EE21. It can be on a level 4 hill, but I'm not sure why they give that option, because I can't think why I would want it there. I suppose it'd make it a little bit more difficult for the tanks to get around to bypass the buildings. Perhaps. Yeah,
I mean maybe in Z27 looks like the kind of the place to put it potentially if you were going to go there.
Yeah.
So that might help. But as I found, it's going to be ridiculously difficult to get these tanks up this road and past the roadblocks.
Yeah.
So
it's obvious that's where the roadblock is, with some wire, isn't it?
Yes.
Because it's hip, isn't it? The people watching can't see it.
Right.
But yeah, that takes a lot of clearing, and that is the only realistic way of getting those tanks up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my setup, I'm the Germans in this one. I've decided I'm going to try and do a little bit of scaling. The guys on the right are going to actually come on at the top here in the north of the map. So the idea is that the heavy machine gun is just going to try and reveal these guys here, The tank will also be put down here just to have another shot, and then we'll see if we can get some scaling going on up this cliff. Now, I, of course, misread the scenario card and did a quick count and figured out that you had 3 dummy units floating around here. Of course, you set up concealed, which I hadn't spotted. So in my mind, there are just 3 concealment counters, 3 dummy units in this whole thing. So I'm kind of quite nervous.
To us both thinking we were losing all the way through.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, some of the way through, yeah. Because I know how weak I am, and you think I look very strong.
Exactly. You looked really strong to me. And so I wasn't sure what I was up to. So the plan is really.
It's worth saying I've got a couple of hips as well.
You have, yes.
Yeah, I've got 2 hip squads, or 2 hip squad equivalents, and an anti-tank gun.
Right. All right. Yeah. So prep fire does nothing, which we could have told you before, couldn't we? So start to come up the hill, some minimum moves coming up and some advances, and a turn 1 complete, and that's kind of.
It's really funny because when you're playing a game like this, you kind of think, right, okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
But there's 8 turns, isn't there?
Yeah.
Nothing much has happened. You advanced a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. You made a little bit of a mistake here, leaving the unit in sight of the heavy machine gun, which got a little bit lucky.
I don't know what I was thinking there, but only a pin, not too bad.
That's right. So on come the reinforcements. Rommel
and a repositioning, because of course it doesn't look like you're going to be going up that path at the bottom in force.
Right.
So in actual fact, that unit in DD30 is the heavy machine gun.
Right. DD. So let me zoom in there and have a look. Here, this is your heavy machine gun. Right. Okay. So yeah, we're kind of caught on the back foot a little bit in terms of not really knowing how to get up this hill.
You've also got this group coming in on the north, haven't you? Which is nothing I can do to stop that, really.
Yeah, so I go onto the bridge and start to stride onto the roadblock and start to think about if I'm going to clear this or not. I mean, the problem is I've got to get underneath the wire before I can clear the roadblock. You're already pulling back, and I mean, I already feel like I've lost. I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong here. And again, I think I've revealed maybe 1 set of dummies, so I figure now there's no other dummies out.
Yeah.
Now, although I could have pushed harder, there wasn't. The terrain really does kind of slow everything down anyway. But I've got I've brought my heavy machine gun around here to kind of help me. And
I can't believe I've managed to let you through there. Really, it was bad play, and even the position I'm in is terrible because did I forget to advance? I don't know. It's a terrible position because when you advance up there, you'll be adjacent to me.
Right. We got some climbing to do. Obviously, double sixes eliminates the climbers. There's a double.
But you're
six.
never going to roll a double six.
There's one. So that's a climber gone.
It's the first casualty of the game.
Yeah.
To either side. Oh, we've had a couple of breaks, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
But the thing is, your guys are coming back, and their morale is higher if they're within 2 hexes of Rommel.
Right.
Isn't it? So they're breaking, but they are coming back.
Yep.
And I'm stupidly using that stone building in DD22 to fire at them, which actually you can see from the tank where Rommel is.
Yeah. So the whole bunch of breaks, whole bunch of pulling back, push forward on the north, back onto this roadblock again.
Yep.
More prep firing, get away with not too much damage there.
Yeah. So you're falling back again.
Yeah. I break your.
Oh,
your guy down the
And that's
bottom.
my reinforcement as well in V25, which is a squad, a light machine gun, and a 8-0 leader.
Right. This is the
I've actually
Belgian.
got two. Well, they're not Belgians; they're French.
Oh, okay,
They're
French.
But yeah, they're the reinforcements. I think it's obviously for historical reasons they give you horses, because I don't know, the map on this scale doesn't sort of feel that like you need horses.
Sure. I mean, I think in the campaign game, you're coming in
Yeah.
from a lot further away.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I just abandoned them and
yeah,
assault moved on, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So turn 4, and I've basically made no progress at all.
Well, that's not true in the north. You've
Yeah,
making progress there.
yeah, that's true.
But I am beginning to get things filtering back to the village, although some of those are dummies. One of them is a dummy.
Right. Getting under the wire, still climbing.
Yeah.
You pin me, which doesn't count on climbing, which is one nice thing about climbing. But you're able to reinforce this area quite strongly. I'm able to.
Can I just point out, because people will not know, that I've just revealed a gun in Z20. Yep. You ran in every hex around that gun. Didn't actually move into it.
Yeah, that's going to happen again shortly, where I managed to magically miss the hexes.
Another hip unit,
yeah. So we get some breaks on you with the infantry gun. You've got a set of guys that are concealed here. This is the guy with the anti-tank rifle. Defending against the tanks that will never get past this roadblock.
Yeah. So I think we both, I don't know, I put a lot of effort into how I was going to have hidden assets to fire at your tanks when they got through the roadblock.
Right.
But really, the tanks end up not being that important, do they?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I destroy the gun in close combat.
Yeah.
And this is where I think we just missed this, but I managed to get like a concealed guy into BB19, don't I, to attack you, lose the ambush, go for a capture attempt, roller 11, and then you rolled. I said, there's no justice, and then you rolled a double 1, generated a leader as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've got your guys repositioning.
Yeah, I'm kind of on fullback mode now. Really, what can I extricate?
Yeah,
I've got this funny. I mean, it's a dummy, isn't it? In X19, who's been sort of running around behind your force the whole time.
X19. Where are we looking here? Oh, up here. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Remember, he had to escape down into the buildings on the lower level. Coming back now, but you obviously twigged he was a dummy, I think, quite early on.
Yeah, because I think at this point you've told me that.
Yeah, I've got loads and loads of dummies.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're coming through in force now. I'm nervous, right? Most of my force is intact. I think I've lost a squad. Yep. But I am anxious because you've got a lot of infantry coming through.
Yep. I've decided that this is the debate about whether I'm going to try and clear this roadblock for the tanks or not. And obviously you've got to be on top of the roadblock at the start of the movement phase to declare the clearance attempt. And then you've got to get lucky. Obviously Rommel will help and an extra squad will help.
Yeah.
But I figure that
I think you're very likely to clear it, actually.
Yeah.
But
even then, the tanks have got to come through and they've got to try and get through these woods. It's just going to take too long.
And it's 2 hexes, isn't it? 2 hexes to do trail breaks. Yeah.
So I decide I'm going to leave those tanks there and just do nothing with them at all and push through. Now, you were saying at this point you felt like I was going to win this.
Right. So the thing is, right, so the way I'm looking at it, AA27 is actually a dummy.
Right.
So I've got some strength in AA27. That's the heavy machine gun. It's only a green unit here. The Z29. So Z27 is the heavy machine gun. Z29 is only a green unit.
Right.
So, and I know, and there's dummies in AA27. CC28 are dummies.
Right.
So you probably thinking you can't cross BB26 safely, but there is nothing covering that hex.
Right.
There is. I've got 2 squads behind it. DD28. There's 2 squads, light machine gun and 8-1 leader.
Right.
But trying to get in is difficult. Getting into position.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you fired at all the dummies in your defensive fire, and they both got revealed. But at least there was no harm done. Then I could advance the real units concealed forward. So now I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident.
Yep.
But not that much.
Yeah. So turn 6. Yeah. So with 2 turns left, I really have to push because I know what you'll end up doing is just putting some guys at the ground floor of Z28 and then have some guys above that I won't get to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I have to push, and this is where stuff just starts to break.
The dice absolutely abandoned you at this point. I think it's it's over on that left-hand side. It's the only place you have any sort of luck at all, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything broke except your leaders. All your leaders were okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think by the time we kind of reveal what's gone on.
We've also missed the hip unit arriving.
Oh, you had a hip unit up here in... Yes, that's right, because I had a broken guy in DD23. And then you had a hip guy in CC23 and kind of revealed him. So you didn't reveal him during the route phase. You revealed him afterwards and then advanced in to clear up the...
and also take the medium machine gun off them. And I think I go on to destroy that. Yeah,
exactly. So I go into close combat. I've got here, we've got, effectively, I think it will be a 2-1 with a -1, and you've got a green capture attempt here. I rolled a 6, you rolled a 1, so you're going to withdraw out of there.
Which creates such an opportunity for me, as we'll see.
Exactly. We have a man-on-man melee in B28.
We left in melee,
and I capture you up at the top here. But, this is all getting a bit too late, really. Rommel though in the background, so I figure, well, can put him to some good use at some point. So some horrible prep fire. I think
it's like 24. Wasn't it?
Yeah, you get a KIA there or 2 KIA in there.
That's when I really started to feel confident.
Yeah, exactly. So then we have a last turn, second but last turn push. And even at this point, I think, well, okay, if I do okay on the push, might have a chance.
Even breaks the heavy machine gun guys.
I think it broke the leader. I think the heavy machine gun was okay.
Pinned the leader.
So Rommel comes flying in, and the idea here is if I can survive the 4 down 2 shot here, and jump into the victory condition here, I'm thinking, well, maybe there's a chance because we've got there's a chance.
There's a chance. I agree.
And so in we go. Survives the residual. Survives the first shot.
Final 5 shot, isn't it?
I think it's a 6 down or 4 down 3 or something.
Because it's a -1 leader there.
And Rommel's killed.
And changed history.
Yes, really. You changed history, and we call it there with a turn to go, and we're not going to be able to get into all 4 of these.
I really enjoyed that scenario, Dave. Not just because I won, but I just found it. It was nice. I've only really got 7 squads, so actually there's 3 real routes for you to come up, plus the cliffs. So I'm actually pretty spread out. But I was you're being able to fall like a collapsing balloon kind of thing. Was it was easy to do as the French, or relatively easy to do as the French.
Yeah, and I think I definitely would have played it differently, knowing that at
Yeah,
most I was going to face two squads, for example,
yeah,
in any one
yeah,
position.
yeah.
But it was nice.
I
Sorry,
thought, yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I think during the campaign game that we played, I never felt like I had this kind of this opportunity to surround you and I was always. This is why I think I'm losing that campaign, because I think all the way through that I've got like 2 or 3 units against what feels like 20 units. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like a kind of fair fight in any spot.
Mm, mm.
But yeah, you were going to say.
I was going to say, I think that you did a little bit of cliff climbing, but I think I was worried about you cliff climbing from the get go,
Right.
because I don't know that I could have repositioned. Of course, you thought those 2 stacks were real units, didn't
Yep.
you? But and they could have been. Obviously,
Yeah.
they could have been, even if you realised about how many dummies I had. But I think it'd been very difficult for me to stop that infantry force en masse
Right.
getting up those. But the other thing, I'll have to sit and work this out one day. Is it possible to get the vehicles into action on the, at the end game? Because they've got 2 major obstacles, haven't they?
Yeah, it seems tough, doesn't it? I'm sure there's a
Yeah,
way, but yeah, I didn't see it.
yeah.
Didn't see it. Okay, well, let's know if you've played that one, and or if you do play it since then, just give us a shout.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is if you end up playing any of these scenarios that you've seen us feature, even months later, feel free to add a comment on YouTube, because I think if people do catch up with these episodes later on, it's always nice to see some comments of people who have played these scenarios since then. Obviously, leave some comments on the scenario archive as well. But yeah, that was that. But anyway, well played, Martin. It was good scenario. It was good fun.
And another thing, I mean, if people play this now, having watched this, and do a log file and send it in, and show us, I don't know, how it should be done or whatever, that'd be interesting as
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's hear Toby talk about what to do with broken units.
Okay, next I want to deal with basically when you're attacking, what to do with broken units. And I suppose this is what I think my friend Peter Stroif used to call, I think he gave it a list of tips about how to win more games in ASL. And I think his was something like, always kick someone when they're down, which basically means just making sure broken units stay broken or destroying them. I've got 3 things to say, and the first thing is this: always, before you start shooting at broken units, which most players realise is often a good thing to do. Well, it isn't always a good thing to do, because I've lost count of the amount of times I've been playing a game and it's normally the opponent's turn, and during their advanced firing phase, they're gunning away merrily at some of my broken units, and I'm looking at them thinking, well, hang on a minute, mate. In the upcoming rout phase, as soon as you finish shooting in the upcoming rout phase, that unit's going to be eliminated for failure to rout anyway, or it's going to surrender to you. But I keep quiet, and he can merrily shoot them, and I'm hoping that either he rolls a sniper, or by some miracle I roll a double 1 and suddenly I've got a unit back. So always think, what happens in the next rout phase? Are those enemy units going to be eliminated anyway? If they are, generally speaking, unless you've got an exceptional reason not to gather prisoners or something, stop shooting. So that's the first piece of advice. Secondly, beyond the next rout phase, always have a think about what happens in the next rally phase. Because remember, shooting units to make them DM, okay, as I say, lots of players try to do it automatically. What it does is it enables that unit in the upcoming rout phase to run away. And particularly in your defensive fire phase, okay, it's your defensive fire phase, that the next rally phase, the next turn is yours, okay? So lots of broken units that aren't DM, enemy units, aren't going to be able to rally in your next turn, in your rally phase, are they? Not unless they've got a leader. And of course, you can see if there's a leader hovering just behind them, ready to advance in. In that case, it'll usually be worth shooting. But if there's no possible leader within a hex, then there's little point shooting at them. You know, keep them closer to you in your line of sight. Don't DM them, because then they've got a chance of rallying back somewhere safe and to a leader. So always think, you know, what happens? Whose turn is it next? It's my turn. Okay, that unit there on its own can't self-rally in my turn. So why am I shooting at it? I'll be better off leaving it there and running forward in my turn to hopefully kill it off. And then the third thing is consider one little ploy that lots of good players undertake, which is to DM units by advancing adjacent to them in the advance phase. So it's my turn, I can see there's a unit there, and instead of letting it rout away and DMing it through fire, I'll do it through my advances. So I advance adjacent to it in my advance phase, that DMs it. Often, right? Often you'll find that the unit you just advanced adjacent to it can then gain concealment, because there's often no other unit good order that can see it. So and in his turn, then okay, he gets a self rally. Now there is a chance, of course, that he could rally, but hey, that's ASL, right? You know, he's got a 4 or 5 chance of rallying. It's not enormous. And if he does, well, maybe you're concealed anyway. But if he doesn't, right? Well, if you're concealed, he's adjacent to you and you're concealed, and you can decide what to do then. You might just run behind him or advance in. If you didn't get concealed, well, he's DM'd again, isn't he? You know, so it just gives you more options. So I often find it is very wise to advance adjacent to broken units, to DM them in that way. And as I say, then you can try to destroy the broken unit in your next turn, and destroying units for failure to rout is what we'll look at next time.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because I don't do that enough, where we advance into a broken unit, keeping concealment, well, regaining concealment, so you break him. Yeah. Break him, gain concealment, let him not rally, and obviously then his DM comes back off again. He can't then rout away, and you've got him. You got him on the next one. That's
It's sneaky. It's very Toby.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, I love listening to like Toby's tips, and I always go, oh gosh, I'm going to make sure I do all this stuff. But then in the heat of the battle, and you're thinking about 100 other things, sometimes you forget to do these things.
It's true. But I feel like these are little strings in your armory that you can call upon at some point. Like, for example, I'm now looking much more for more encircling shots, and I'm constantly now looking for encircling shots. He
is the master of encircling shots.
He is. Yeah, he comes with his own little clips of like a magazine full of encirclement counters. Like, it's you just got them on hand.
Special box of like 20 or 30 there, just ready to use.
Like a Pez dispenser of them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll figure out something next to play coming up, and I guess we'll hope to see if we can get those games finished from the tournament. Anything else, Martin, from you?
No, I think we're done.
Good stuff. Okay. Well, until then, thanks very much, and we'll speak to you all soon. Cheers, guys.
Take care all. Bye.